Thank you for tuning into our breaking news coverage. We are learning that the impeachment motion against President Yoon Suk Yeol is now scrapped at Parliament. Let's go straight over to the National Assembly, where our correspondent Lee Si-hoo is standing by. Si-hoo, what is the latest?
Right, Changmin. So the voting process ended not long ago at 9:20 p.m. and the motion has now been disposed. A total of 195 lawmakers participated in the anonymous vote that required at least 200 approvals to pass. All members of the PAN opposition and in addition, 3 members of the ruling People Power Party participated in the vote. Soon after the vote closed, the PAN opposition members came out to this hall and protested the result. Now, this came as the PPP collectively decided to block the impeachment, but instead consider other options, such as a shortened term for the president. Most left the plenary session early on and have been holding internal meetings in a different room throughout the night. One of the 3 PPP members who did participate in the vote, lawmaker Kim Sang-uk, has shared that he's actually voted against. Again, the motion required at least 200 approvals from the total 300 lawmakers. This means the opposition overall needed extra support from at least 8 PPP members who are willing to go against the view of their party. That is, in addition to full support from the PAN opposition. The National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik and the opposition lawmakers have urged the PPP lawmakers to return to session and went as far as to visit the PPP meeting room, but to no avail.
And the Assembly also turned out the bill prompting special prosecution on First Lady Kim Gon-hee.
That's right. All members of the parliament participated in the earlier vote that was also turned down. This was another opposition-led bill prompting an investigation into the First Lady Kim Gon-hee and the allegations surrounding her. 198 lawmakers voted for the prosecution and 102 voted against. This was a third parliamentary rejection of such kind of a bill here tonight. It needed a majority attendance and at least 2/3 approval to pass, but was short of 2 approvals from passing tonight. Jung-min.
Thank you. That was our political correspondent Lee Si-hoo live from the Parliament. Streets around the Parliament and also other places have been filled with protesters throughout the day. Now let's go over to our correspondent An Sung-jin standing by live in Yeouido to get the public reaction on the latest. Sung-jin, what's it looking there?
Well, good evening, Jongmin. It's a little bit past 10 p.m. here in Korea, and the weather is well below zero. But as you can see behind me, the protesters still haven't left the streets. I'm only a couple hundred meters away from the National Assembly, yet hundreds of thousands of protesters are here to voice their demand, which is the impeachment of President Yoon. Though the impeachment vote has failed to go through, this hasn't stopped protesters from leaving the streets. Today is the 4th day of the major rallies and candlelit protests taking place here in the heart of the capital's Seoul. A major protest here around 7 hours ago, organized by the Korean Federation of Trade Unions and the People's Solidarity for Participatory Democracy. On the other hand, there are also major protests at Gwanghwamun Square from conservative groups, including the Liberty Unification Party and Freedom Korea National Defense Corps, to support President Yoon, with around 20,000 gathered. Some of these conservative groups were here at Yeouido early on, but most of them left after they heard that lawmakers of the PPP were not participating in the vote. Protests for the 2 political spectrums split up. Liberal groups on Yeouido near the National Assembly and conservative groups near Gwanghwamun Square. Nationwide, it is estimated that more than 250,000 protesters are protesting, but police seem to count more and predict that up to 100 million people may have gathered.
And at the previous impeachment 8 years ago involving former President Park Geun-hye, there were mass candlelight protests across the country too.
I'm glad that you pointed that part out, Jongmin, because despite today being reportedly the largest demonstration since the declaration of the martial law decree, safety measures have been well implemented without much violence occurring. Another thing I'm witnessing, Jongmin, right now is actually people are taking their trash back with them and cleaning up behind each other, which is a moment of another democratic citizenship. Further, the police have also been especially on high alert and have stationed thousands of officers. If you look around here, and their lawyers for a democratic society were also volunteering to help protesters. And with Yeouido being crowded, as concerns mount about safety, the National Assembly and Yeouido stations on subway line 9 will see trains passing through these stations without stopping. Workers at other nearby stations on line 9 alongside police are taking steps to ensure that there aren't any accidents. That's all I have for you now. Back to you, Jungmin.
All right, that was our correspondent An Sung-jin live at Yeouido. Thank you. Now let's connect with our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon to find out how the top office is monitoring this situation. Do-yeon, do you have their responses on the motion dismissal?
Jungmin, there hasn't been any immediate response from the top office as President Yoon Suk Yeol has avoided impeachment for now. In fact, excluding the announcement for the public address by President Yoon this morning, there were no official announcements or press guides distributed to the correspondents throughout the day. Also, there hasn't been much coming out of the top office since Wednesday morning, except for when the top office nominated a new national defense minister after Kim Yong-yeon's resignation following the martial law situation. The top office also had canceled all official engagements for President Yoon starting Wednesday. That's not to say that they're not in operation. Even though it's Saturday, the top office had been on an emergency shift with most of its staff showing up to work today.
And the President Yoon made a public address earlier today. Did it have the desired impact?
As of now, as I said, I couldn't get an official response from the top office regarding that aspect, but it is likely that some lawmakers who initially would have voted for the impeachment could have changed their minds. This is because President Yoon during the address said he will entrust the ruling PPP with the matters regarding the remainder of his term and have them in charge to resolve the current political chaos. Take a listen to his apology as well during the same address.
매우 송구스럽게 생각하며 많이 놀라셨을 국민 여러분께 진심으로 사과드립니다. 저는 이번 계엄 선포와 관련하여 법적, 정치적 책임 문제를 회피하지 않겠습니다.
And following all this, PPP chair Han Dong-hoon, who last said he was in favor of the impeachment, said President Yoon needs to end his term early, but the best method needs to be discussed, hinting that he's changed his mind on pushing for impeachment vote that's happening today. And as we saw at the National Assembly, this could be it. In addition, during the address, Yoon assured the public that he would not be imposing another martial law decree. The address was a first public appearance since early Wednesday morning when he lifted martial law. It lasted slightly more than 2 minutes, with yet again no reporters at the scene to ask him questions. That's all for now. Back to you, Jungmin.
Thank you, Do-yeon. That was our top office correspondent Kim Do-yeon joining us live on the phone. And for insights into this unusual political event, we're joined again by attorney An Jun-sung here in the studio. Mr. An, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And we're also joined virtually by Professor Cho Hee-kyung from Hongik University's College of Law. Welcome, Professor.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Mr. An, I want to start with you. So 195 lawmakers cast their votes and the voting ended. This means the impeachment motion is dropped because it does not meet the quorum of 200 votes. Does this resolve political uncertainty or the other way around?
Well, I guess it seems like it's a delay tactic made by the PPP, obviously. I think they can try to save some time to reorganize whatever they have it, because they're basically assuming allegedly they actually had Chairman Han had a meeting with President Yoon, and they had a discussion which we do not know what really went on. So I guess they'll try to do something next week, and it depends on how well they do it. I mean, how much they can persuade the general public and how well they can do it. I think that's the really big issue. Could be a turning point of this situation, but we have to wait and see what kind of card they will play next week.
And Professor Cho, 3 lawmakers from the ruling People Power Party, including An Chol-soo and Kim Ye-ji, seem to have broken ranks to cast their votes. We, of course, do not know whether all of them voted for yes or no, but what's your take on this? I want to get your reaction on this.
Well, it was very disappointing. They had decided as a party that they would be voting against the impeachment motion. But we have to remember that each and every single one of the individual lawmakers is actually a constitutional institution in and of themselves. So they really should have been acting according to their own conscience, and this should not have been a motion where they were required to vote along party lines. So I was glad to see that at least a couple of the lawmakers from the ruling party did act independently. Again, we don't know whether they voted yes or no. One of them actually came out and said, although he broke ranks and came and voted, he voted no to the motion. But I believe that two of them, the names that you mentioned, they actually voted for the motion. But once again, many of the ruling party lawmakers previously have actually served as judges, experienced prosecutors, and all of them know that the attempted declaration of emergency martial law by President Yoon on Tuesday night was completely without any constitutional basis. And just through that act, it was essentially akin to a self-coup, and he is facing investigation. And just based on that, it was very clear that he should have been held accountable for his actions, and they should have voted really in accordance with their conscience and not really towed the party line.
Staying with you, Professor Cho, President Yoon addressed the nation earlier in the morning. He apologized to the public and said he would leave all political decisions to his party, including what becomes of his term. How do you assess whether his final appeal has worked, whether it has worked?
Well, it was certainly a final desperate appeal to try to buy himself some time. And also to persuade the ruling party lawmakers not to vote for his impeachment, as well as the motion that was actually being passed for the special prosecution of the First Lady. And that whether that appeal by the president actually worked, or whether the ruling party lawmakers were essentially acting in their own self-interest as a group, I'm not entirely clear. Perhaps they have both contributed to the outcome of the fact that the impeachment motion didn't pass. President Yoon's apology really wasn't much of an apology. I couldn't detect an iota of sincerity or honesty in his apology because, as you know, as we all know, the first principle of apology is that you make clear what you're apologizing for. But basically all he said was that he was apologizing for surprising. He didn't even use the word shock in Korean. It was the word surprise. He was apologizing that the people were surprised at what happened on Tuesday night. But he didn't explain why he had done it. He also certainly didn't really explain how he is going to be accountable. He said that he would take full responsibility, both legally and politically, for his actions. But if he actually meant what he said, then he should have stepped down from the position of president, because he certainly is not fit to be serving as president.
And Attorney An, now the motion is rendered null. What happens next? The DP, the Democratic Party, vows to push for impeachment again. Can the motion be introduced over and over again?
Yeah, that's what the chairman of DP had the forever repeating, right? Basically, yes. Well, under the Korean National Assembly Act, and there are two different sessions. There's a general session and a special session. Now is the general session, which will end December 10th. So technically, on December 11th, the DP, with a minimum 45 vote, they can 75 vote, they can convene the special session on December 11th, technically. So I guess they are targeting to weekend so that they can have more public, support, or just like the one candlelight, candlelight meeting. So I guess that's it. They will try to find the best time to, pressure, maximize the pressure on the, PPP. So or technically, yes, they can repeat it. It means that they have a special session, every week. Technically possible, yes.
And what lies ahead? Now the motion is scrapped when it comes to future chaos and wrangling in the political arena.
Yeah, actually, it's a very interesting question because I was thinking about myself and why, since they were both, one bill, special bill was rejected and the motion was rejected as well. And what will happen next time, next round, sooner or later, maybe next week or the following week, both things will be passed at the same time. I think they might creating more chaos than one passed today and passed the other one later. It's a two impact at the same time. Maybe that's more I think there's more could be a more serious problem to not only to DPP, PPP, also to the Korean society here. Yeah.
And Professor Cho, what does this mean for President Yoon and his cabinet now that the motion is dismissed?
Well, the president gets to stay in the office for the moment, and the cabinet as well. However, he said himself that he would be stepping back to and leaving the decisions and what is going to actually happen to the party, which again doesn't really make sense. However, we know that there are currently ongoing investigations, both by the prosecution office and by the police, into his conduct on Tuesday night and following, because although he enjoys immunity of presidential office, we have to remember that insurrection and treason are beyond that scope of immunity. And so the investigation will continue. And if they find that there are sufficient grounds, there may even be arrests made regarding the president himself and possibly the members of cabinet. We'll have to see. I just want to clarify one thing regarding the passing of impeachment motion again, because there's the principle of double jeopardy, which means that the same motion that they try to pass today in the National Assembly cannot be tabled again. However, there are additional facts that are still coming out, which also disclose other criminal elements. And so they can be added to the impeachment motion. And so they're essentially, they will be basically drafting fresh impeachment motions. And that's what they will be continuing to do, the Democratic Party, I believe.
Professor Cho Hee-kyung from Hongik University and attorney An Jun-sung, thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
And that wraps up our special coverage of the impeachment vote against the president. We will bring more updates and in-depth analysis throughout the week here on Arirang. Thank you for watching.